Hello, chaps and chapettes. Hopefully what follows will be a 5-part mini-series on 5 significant films. Now, I haven't been tagged in this particular tag that's been going around, but before it completely and utterly loses traction, I wanted to get this out because I think it is actually an interesting thing. So I'm taking what Mikola said at the end of his video and taking that as a tag. So, as you've probably guessed from the title of this video, today's film is Blade Runner. Well, I suppose I should talk a little bit about the first time I saw this film. I remember it was with my dad, and I was actually fairly old by the time I got around to watching it, which, with regards to a lot of the other films on this list, as you'll see, is something that immediately sets it apart. I suppose I'd heard a lot about it before seeing it, but I was entirely unprepared for how dark, gritty, and above all, deep a film it was. Just a quick plot overview for those of you who haven't seen it. In the distant future of 2019, an ex-cop named Deckard is given the task of hunting down and retiring several hyper-realistic androids. The first thing that makes this film significant for me is something that I think is going to be a recurring theme in all of the choices I've picked for this list, but it's one of those films that really does remind me why I want to do this for a living. It's an intelligent story, well told, with actors who are at the top of their game, with a director who was at the top of his game, and really just synergized beautifully. It's a film that asks a lot of very interesting and deep questions, and I'm not just talking about whether or not the central character of Deckard is a replicant himself or not. Actually, in regards to that question, I find myself coming down in the minority that actually it doesn't really matter who is a replicant and who isn't. One of the more important questions the film seems to be asking in this scenario is, who's human? And that kind of leads into something that for me means that it is a significant film, is that it's, even though it was made in the early 1980s, it's become more and more relevant as time has gone on, because it was one of the first films that really presented a vision of the future that was not wholly good and wholly bad, but was complicated, and the characters are really having to deal palpably with very, very difficult questions that being in this world poses to them. Much like The Matrix, almost 20 years later, it's a sci-fi film that you can enjoy on many different levels, be it just a straight-up detective adventure story, or as a quite deep philosophical treatise on what the nature of humanity actually is. And I like films that do that, that sort of pose questions and make interesting observations about a certain aspect of the world. It's one of the things that fuels my passion to want to become an actor and to be able to tell those sorts of stories. Of course, there are plenty of memorable moments and quotable dialogue from this film, but if I had to pick one, it's going to come as no surprise that it's this. I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched sea-beams glimmer in the dark near the Tannhauser Gate. All these moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Time to die. Well, Rutger Hauer I am not, but I hope the point I was trying to make still stands. This is a fantastic film, and I highly recommend you see it if you haven't already. This should be on your viewing list if you are an actor, a director, a lover of sci-fi or philosophy, and just generally if you're into movies that pose a question. Also, with regards to which version of the film you see, my personal preference is for the director's cut. However, really and truly, any cut of the film that you see that is on general release is going to be unequivocally a good film. So, go and watch Blade Runner. I hope you enjoyed the video, stick around for the next one if you did, and until next time, chaps and chapettes.